In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world feels older and slower, it is easy to imagine medieval streets at rest. Lanterns flicker low against stone walls, fires smolder into ash, and the sounds of the day finally fade. Yet even in these peaceful moments, there were people who could not sleep. They carried the burden of the worst jobs in medieval history, tasks so grim, so exhausting, and so thankless that they linger like shadows in the past. Picture a medieval town as the night air settles in. The streets are narrow, paved with uneven stones slick from years of rain and waste. Most people sleep behind wooden doors, but somewhere nearby a gong sounds softly. It is not an alarm of danger, only a signal that work must continue. For medieval life never truly stopped, and the worst jobs demanded attention even when the world wanted rest. One such job belonged to the gong farmer. Long before plumbing, human waste accumulated beneath homes in cesspits and latrines. When these pits filled, someone had to empty them. That someone worked at night, when the smell would offend fewer people and darkness, offered a small mercy of invisibility. The gong farmer descended into pits thick with filth, using buckets and bare hands, hauling waste into carts to be dumped far from town. The air was heavy, choking, and dangerous. Toxic gases could overwhelm a man without warning, and many never climbed back out. Yet the town depended on him, even while despising him. Children were warned to stay away, and doors closed as he passed. He earned more than many laborers, but no amount of coin washed away the smell that followed him home. As the gong farmer labored, another miserable worker waited near the edge of town. The knacker, whose duty was to deal with dead animals. Horses that collapsed in the street, cows that died of illness, dogs struck down by age or accident, all fell to the knacker's care. He skinned carcasses, removed rotting flesh, and boiled bones for glue and tallow. The stench clung to him constantly, and like the gong farmer, he lived on society's margins. People needed him, but refused his company. Taverns often turned him away, and churches seated him far from others. His work kept disease at bay, though few ever thanked him for it. Not far away, beneath the looming silhouette of the castle, another sleepless figure paced slowly. The night watchman carried a lantern and staff, calling out the hours to reassure townsfolk that someone was awake and guarding their safety. His job was long and lonely. In winter, the cold seeped into his bones, numbing fingers and slowing his steps. In summer, insects swarmed the torchlight, biting exposed skin. The watchman had to remain alert for fires, thieves, and unrest, knowing that any mistake would be blamed on him. If a blaze broke out or a robbery occurred, questions followed and answers were expected. Many watchmen walked their rounds in fear, not of criminals, but of failing in silence. Beyond the town walls, where the road faded into darkness, another worker struggled with an even harsher reality. The medieval executioner was both feared and shunned. His job required strength and precision, yet also condemned him to social exile. Executioners lived apart, married among their own families, and passed their grim trade from parent to child. Their work was public, yet they were unwelcome everywhere else. Markets avoided them, inns refused them service, and children were told not to look at them too long. The executioner practiced his craft carefully, knowing that a single mistake could turn a swift death into a drawn-out spectacle. At night, he sharpened blades and cleaned tools in quiet isolation, aware that tomorrow the crowd would watch him work, then turn away in disgust. In the castle kitchens, long after the feast ended, servants scraped grease from trenchers and scoured blackened pots. The scullions, often children or the poorest adults, handled the worst of it. Their hands cracked from cold water in winter and blistered from heat in summer. They slept near the hearth, inhaling smoke even in rest. Their work began before sunrise and ended long after dark. No songs were sung for them, no praise offered. Yet without them, no lord dined well. Elsewhere in the castle, another unpleasant role waited patiently. The chamber pot bearer moved quietly through corridors, collecting waste from nobles who never questioned where it went. Spills were common and humiliation constant. A single misstep could lead to punishment, laughter, or worse. These servants learned to keep their eyes down and voices silent, blending into the stone walls like ghosts. In monasteries and hospitals, medieval caregivers faced a different kind of suffering. Tending to the sick meant exposure to diseases no one understood. Without knowledge of germs, monks and nurses washed wounds with wine, applied herbs, and prayed for healing. Many caught the illnesses they tried to cure. Plagues swept through wards, leaving caregivers weak, fevered, and often dead. Their devotion was quiet and unseen, overshadowed by fear and superstition. In tanneries along polluted rivers, workers soaked animal hides in vats of urine, lime, and rotting flesh. The process softened leather but destroyed lungs and skin. Tanneries stank so badly they were banned from town centers. Workers endured burns, infections, and shortened lives, all to produce belts, shoes, and armor that others wore proudly. Down in the mines, candlelight barely pierced the darkness. Miners crawled through narrow tunnels, swinging picks in air thick with dust. Cave-ins were common. Poisonous gases collected silently, stealing breath without warning. Children worked beside adults, hauling ore and rubble. Their backs bent early, their lungs weakened before adulthood. When a mine collapsed, the town mourned briefly, then sent others down to continue the work. In fields beyond the walls, medieval peasants rose before dawn to labor until sunset. While farming may seem peaceful, it was relentless. Blisters split open, joints ached, and hunger lingered constantly. A failed harvest meant starvation, yet the work never slowed. Even illness did not excuse absence. The land demanded effort, and survival depended on endurance. As night deepened, all these workers continued in their quiet misery, unseen by history's grand stories of kings and knights. They were the backbone of medieval life, carrying burdens that kept society moving while receiving little in return. Eventually dawn approached. The sky softened from black to deep blue. One by one, lanterns dimmed. The gong farmer washed his hands in cold water that never felt clean. The knacker covered his cart. The watchman returned his staff. The executioner rested his tools. The scullions collapsed near the hearth. The miners emerged coughing into fresh air. The peasants prepared to rise again. Their lives were hard, their work worse, yet they endured. And as you listen now, safe and warm, the distant echoes of their labor fade into the quiet of history. The worst jobs of medieval times slip back into shadow where they belong, leaving only the gentle rhythm of breath, the soft passage of time, and the comfort of rest. Let the past drift away. Let the night remain calm. And let sleep come slowly, peacefully, at last. The night does not end all at once. It stretches, slowly and patiently, as if even time itself is tired. And so the story continues, drifting gently back into the medieval world, where sleep was rare for those burdened with the worst labors. As the first pale light touches the horizon, bells begin to stir the air. Not loud yet, only a distant reminder that another day is forming. In a low wooden hut near the town's edge, a medieval rat catcher wakes. His work is quiet but endless. Rats infest granaries, cellars, and homes, spreading disease and fear. With traps, sticks, and sometimes bare hands, he hunts them through filth and shadow. Bites are common, infection is constant. He knows every alley and sewer opening, moving where others refuse to go. When plague rumors spread, people blame him if the rats remain, yet never thank him when the streets are clear. Nearby, the leech collector steps into cold marsh water before sunrise. Leeches are prized by medieval doctors, believed to balance the body's humors. The collector wades barefoot through stagnant pools, allowing leeches to cling to his legs. He pulls them off carefully and stores them alive. The water chills his bones, insects swarm his face. Sometimes the leeches bite too deeply and blood flows freely. Fever follows him often, yet the work must continue because illness in others depends on his suffering. In the shadows of the city gate, the town crier prepares his voice. While not always filthy, his job is punishing in another way. He must shout royal decrees, punishments, tax demands, and grim news of executions or plague. He cannot soften the message. If the crowd reacts badly, anger turns toward him. Rotten food and stones sometimes fly. His throat aches constantly, his voice hoarse by midday, yet silence would cost him his position or worse. In butcher shops, blood pools on stone floors before most people are awake. Medieval butchers worked quickly, surrounded by flies and the sharp smell of iron in the air. Animals struggled, screamed, and died within arm's reach. Injuries were common. A slip of the knife could mean infection or death. Yet meat was precious, and the butcher was expected to provide it daily, regardless of weather or fatigue. Further out, at the edge of the gallows hill, a grave digger begins his task. Execution days leave bodies to be buried quickly, often without ceremony. Plague pits demand even more labor. Digging into frozen ground numbs hands and splits skin. The dead are heavy, uncooperative, and sometimes still warm. Fear of spirits and disease follows every shovel of earth. Still, the graves must be filled before night returns. Inside damp stone prisons, jailers endure a different misery. Medieval prisons were not places of rehabilitation but holding pens of despair. Prisoners rotted in chains, sick and starving. The jailer breathed the same foul air, walked through the same filth, and faced violence daily. Bribes were common, threats constant. If a prisoner escaped, punishment fell on him. If prisoners died, suspicion followed. He was hated by those he guarded and distrusted by those who paid him. In castles and towns alike, the fire tender stays alert. Fire is warmth and life, but also terror. Wooden buildings burn fast. The fire tender sleeps lightly, listening for crackles or cries. He stirs embers, controls flames, and responds instantly if sparks leap where they should not. One mistake could erase a neighborhood. Responsibility weighs heavy, especially at night. Down by the river, the dyer stains cloth in vats of chemicals made from plants, insects, and minerals. The colors are bright, but the work is toxic. Fumes rise, skin burns. Water turns strange colors and poisons fish. Dyers are marked by permanently stained hands and clothes. People recognize them instantly and keep their distance. As the sun finally rises fully, these workers fade again into the background of medieval life. Nobles wait to clean chambers. Merchants open stalls. Priests ring bells. History remembers the crowns, the wars, the feasts. It forgets the hands that emptied the pits, dug the graves, hauled the carcasses, and soaked the hides. And now, as the medieval morning grows busy, the story itself begins to soften. The sounds become distant. The images blur gently, like mist lifting from fields. The worst jobs of medieval history drift back into silence, carried away by time. You are no longer there. The cold stone warms. The noise fades. Only calm remains. Your breath slows. The past settles. And sleep, deep and untroubled, gently takes its place. The morning light grows brighter in the medieval world, yet the story does not rush. It lingers, unhurried, moving softly the way tired thoughts do when sleep is close. As townspeople begin their ordinary routines, the worst jobs continue quietly, almost invisibly. In the narrow alleys where sunlight barely reaches, street sweepers move slowly with rough brooms made of twigs. Their task is endless. They clear away mud, animal droppings, broken pottery, spoiled food, and whatever else the night has left behind. There is no praise for clean streets, only complaint when they are dirty. Their backs ache as they bend again and again, breathing dust and decay, knowing the same mess will return tomorrow. Inside crowded workshops, apprentices wake stiff and sore. Many were sent away as children to learn trades that were cruel and unforgiving. The apprentice to a blacksmith works near roaring fires, sparks biting skin, hammer blows ringing endlessly in the ears. Mistakes earn bruises or burns. The apprentice to a barber surgeon watches blood flow freely, holding down patients during amputations or tooth extractions, listening to screams that echo long after the room is quiet. These children grow old too quickly, their innocence worn away by work. In the fields outside the city, shepherds begin their slow walk. Their job seems calm, but loneliness presses heavily. Days pass with only animals for company. Nights bring cold winds and the threat of wolves or thieves. Sleep comes in fragments. Rain soaks wool and skin alike. Hunger is familiar. Yet the flock must be watched, always watched, without rest. In the harbors, fishermen push boats into dark water before sunrise. Their hands are cracked and swollen from salt and rope. Storms rise without warning, turning work into terror. Many drown without ceremony, swallowed by the sea that fed them. Those who return carry heavy nets and heavier fatigue, only to sell their catch for little reward. Near monasteries, bell ringers climb narrow towers, pulling thick ropes that strain shoulders and backs. The bells are heavy, unforgiving. A slip can mean a fall, a crushed limb, or death. Still, the bells must ring for prayer, for warning, for time itself. Their sound fills the air while the ringer remains unseen. As the day stretches onward, the medieval world hums with effort, yet the people doing the hardest work rarely pause. There are no breaks, no gentle encouragements, no promise of ease. Life is survival measured in small victories, another day endured, another night reached. And slowly, very slowly, the story begins to drift away again. The streets blur. The fields soften. The sounds grow distant, as though heard through deep water. The medieval world folds back into the past, carrying its worst jobs with it, leaving only the quiet understanding that those lives existed, worked, and faded. Now there is only stillness. Your body feels heavier. Your thoughts slow. Breath moves gently in and out. There is nothing more to do. Nothing more to carry. The night is calm. Let the echoes fade completely. Let the darkness feel safe. And let sleep settle in, deep and peaceful, like a soft blanket drawn slowly over the mind. The story continues, but it becomes softer now, as though spoken from very far away. Time loosens its grip on the medieval world. The sharp edges of labor and suffering smooth themselves out, and what remains is a gentle echo of lives once lived slowly, heavily, and without rest. Imagine for a moment the laundresses by the river. All day long, they kneel on hard stones, scrubbing heavy wool and linen in cold water. Their fingers swell and split. Soap burns their skin. Wet fabric weighs down their arms until even lifting feels impossible. In winter, the river steals warmth from their bodies, and breath turns to mist. Yet the washing must be done, because cleanliness is demanded by those who never touch the water themselves. As evening comes, the laundresses straighten aching backs and carry baskets home, knowing tomorrow will be exactly the same. Not far away, the medieval midwife moves quietly through narrow streets. Her work is sacred and feared at once. She brings life into the world, yet is blamed when birth goes wrong. There are no clean rooms, no medicines that truly help. Blood, pain, and cries surround her. She works through the night, guided by experience and prayer alone. When a mother survives, relief passes quickly. When one does not, whispers follow the midwife for years. Still, she answers the next knock at the door because someone must. In the forests beyond the town, charcoal burners tend slow-burning pits of wood, watching smoke day and night. Their work keeps fires alive across the kingdom, yet they live isolated, faces blackened, lungs filled with ash. They sleep lightly, listening for shifts in the earth that could collapse the pit and end them without warning. Days blend into nights, nights into days, until time loses meaning. In Scrabble rooms lit by narrow windows, copyists bend over parchment. Their task is not filthy, but it is relentless. Hours pass in silence, hands cramped, eyes strained by dim light. One mistake can ruin weeks of work, ink stains skin permanently. Backs curve forward, shoulders stiffen, and sight fades early. They preserve knowledge while their own bodies slowly fail. As dusk returns once more to the medieval world, fires glow again in hearths. The same people who worked through the night before now prepare to do it again. There is no end, only cycles: labor, exhaustion, brief rest, and labor again. And now the story itself grows tired. The sounds dim, the images fade. Even the past seems ready to sleep. The worst jobs in medieval history drift fully into silence, carried away by centuries, leaving no weight behind. Their hardships dissolve into calm like footprints erased by soft falling snow. You are here, not there. Safe, warm, and still. Your breathing deepens. Your thoughts slow to a gentle rhythm. Nothing is required of you. Let the last echoes fade completely. Let the quiet hold you. Let sleep arrive without effort, without hurry, without thought. The words keep moving, but only just like a candle flame that has grown small and steady. There is still one more soft layer to the medieval world. One last gentle drifting through lives that worked until weariness became their constant companion. Think of the millers, waking before the sun to guide heavy stones that grind grain hour after hour. The air inside the mill is thick with flour dust, clinging to skin and lungs. Every breath tastes dry and pale. The great wheel groans and turns, never stopping, and the miller listens to it so closely that even in sleep he hears the sound. A wrong setting of the stones can ruin grain and bring punishment, so his attention never fully rests. Nearby, coopers shape barrels from heavy wooden staves. The hammering is dull and endless. Splinters cut hands. Shoulders burn. Barrels must be perfect, or they leak and fail. The cooper measures again and again, knowing that tiredness is not an excuse. When night comes, his hands throb quietly in the dark. In city hospitals, orderlies move slowly between beds. They clean straw mattresses soaked with sickness, carry waste, wash bodies too weak to move. The smell never leaves them. At night, they whisper prayers for patients who fade quietly. then continue working without pause. There is no space for grief, only motion. And somewhere beneath all of this, beneath stone floors and packed earth, the sewers run slowly, tended by men who crawl through darkness with torches held low. Rats scurry. Water drips steadily. The walls are slick, the air heavy. These workers know the hidden paths of the city better than anyone, yet they remain unseen, forgotten unless something goes wrong. Now, though, everything begins to soften beyond recognition. The mill wheel slows. The hammer rests. The footsteps fade. The medieval world exhales one long, quiet breath and sinks fully into the distance. There is no more effort, no more labor, no more watching the hours pass. Only darkness remains, calm and gentle, like deep water that holds without pulling. Your body is heavy now, resting fully. Your thoughts drift without shape. Breathing moves slowly, naturally. Nothing follows this moment, nothing needs to. The night stretches on, peaceful and still, and sleep settles completely, wrapping everything in quiet, endless calm. The story continues only as a whisper now, almost indistinguishable from the quiet itself. The medieval world has nearly dissolved, but a few final impressions drift by, slow and weightless, like memories that no longer belong to anyone. Somewhere, far in the countryside, a night soil carrier walks a lonely road with a creaking cart. The moonlight barely touches him. His work is finished for now, and he moves carefully, so as not to spill what he carries. The road is silent. Even the insects seem asleep. When he reaches the dumping ground, he empties the cart, rinses his hands in cold water, and turns back without hurry. There is no one to see him. There never was. In a quiet stable, a groom lies down on a pile of straw after tending horses all night. His clothes smell of sweat and animals. His muscles ache from lifting, brushing, and calming nervous beasts. The horses shift softly in their stalls, warm and alive, and that gentle sound is the last thing he hears before sleep claims him where he rests. In a stone tower, a candle guttering low, a lone clerk finishes counting coins for a lord who will never know his name. Numbers blur. Ink dries. The quill is set down at last. The clerk leans back, closes tired eyes, and allows silence to fill the room. And then, even these final workers fade. The road's empty. The towers darken. The past releases its grip. There are no jobs anymore. No burdens. No hands to tire or backs to bend. Only stillness. Your breathing is slow and even. Your body rests deeply, without effort. Thoughts drift in and out like distant clouds, never staying long enough to matter. Nothing else will happen. Nothing needs to be said. The night is wide and gentle, and sleep has fully arrived, calm and complete, carrying everything softly into quiet. The story continues gently, unbroken, flowing like a slow river meant only to be listened to, not followed too closely. The medieval world rests now, not awake and not entirely gone, but suspended in that soft space where thoughts lose their edges. The hardest work has faded into memory, leaving behind only quiet scenes that drift past without effort. Somewhere beyond the town, a road mender smooths loose stones by lantern light. His tools lie beside him now, finally still. All day he lifted rocks, tamped earth, and straightened what wagons had broken. His hands are rough, patterned with old scars. Tonight, he lies back against the cool ground, staring at the stars, letting the ache in his muscles slowly loosen. The road will still be there tomorrow. For now, there is nothing to fix. Near a crumbling wall, a medieval messenger sleeps wrapped in a thin cloak. He has walked for days, carrying words that were never his own. Orders, threats, demands, apologies. He delivered them all without pause, never stopping long enough to belong anywhere. Tonight, his feet finally rest. The silence feels strange, but welcome. In a quiet courtyard, a stable hand finishes brushing dust from his clothes. All day he shoveled dung, hauled water, and soothed nervous animals. The work was heavy, repetitive, and unnoticed. Now the courtyard is empty. He sits for a moment, listening to nothing at all, and that nothing feels like relief. Far from castles and towns, a peat cutter lies near a dying fire. He spent the day slicing dark earth from the bog, stacking it carefully so it might dry and burn later. The bog was cold, sucking at his boots with every step. His shoulders still remember the weight of the sod. As the fire fades, so does the memory of effort. In a small, low room beneath a merchant's house, a maid rests at last. She scrubbed floors, carried water, emptied waste, and stood silent while others spoke. Her day was measured by commands. Her night belongs only to her. She stretches once, slowly, then lets sleep take over without resistance. All around, the medieval world breathes in a deeper rhythm. Roofs darken. Windows dim. Lanterns go out one by one. Even the places of constant labor surrender to rest. The mill wheel pauses. The forge cools. The river keeps flowing, but softly now, without urgency. And as the world settles, the story itself begins to thin, like mist lifting from stone. Details blur. Faces fade. The weight of work dissolves completely. There are no more jobs to describe. No more burdens to carry. Only the sense of time slowing to a calm, steady pulse. You are no longer watching anything. You are simply resting. Your breathing is slow and even. Your body feels heavy, supported, unmoving. Thoughts pass like distant echoes, never staying long. Nothing pulls at you. Nothing expects anything from you. The medieval world has gone quiet, folded gently into history, leaving behind only peace. The night stretches wide and forgiving. Sleep deepens naturally, effortlessly. And everything remains calm, still, and safe as the story drifts onward into silence. The story opens its eyes just a little again, not to wake, but to drift further, adding more soft images to the quiet flow. Somewhere near the edge of the city, where the air smells faintly of smoke and damp wood, a lime burner tends a slow, dangerous fire. Limestone is stacked carefully, heated for days until it crumbles into powder. The heat is constant, drying the skin and burning the eyes. White dust coats his hair and clothes, settles into his lungs. Many lime burners cough through the night, breath shallow and tight, yet the fire must be watched. He moves slowly now, adding fuel with practiced hands, the glow of the kiln steady and hypnotic. In a low shed beside a busy road, a ropemaker walks backward along a narrow path, twisting fibers into thick, sturdy lines. Hemp fibers scratch and cut the skin. The motion is repetitive, endless, step after step. His arms ache from tension. His back stiffens with each length completed. Ropes hold ships, lift stones, restrain prisoners. When they fail, blame falls on the maker, so he twists carefully, patiently, without haste. Near the castle walls, armor polishers sit hunched over dented metal. All day they scrub rust from helms and breastplates, breathing in fine metallic dust. Their fingers numb from cold steel, their eyes strain to catch every flaw. These pieces will protect knights in battle, yet the polishers will never wear them, never receive thanks when armor gleams in the sun. In the countryside, a medieval swineherd guides pigs through forests and muddy paths. The animals are stubborn, noisy, and heavy. He walks miles each day, stick in hand, boots soaked, clothes splattered. Pigs bite when startled. Wolves circle at dusk. At night, he sleeps lightly, listening for movement, knowing a lost animal means punishment. In the city, beneath bakeries and brewhouses, maltsters work in warm, damp rooms. Grain is soaked, turned, spread, and dried. The air is thick and heavy. Sweat clings constantly. Mold creeps into lungs. Their feet ache from standing on hard floors, yet the rhythm never changes. Bread and ale depend on their patience. In darkened towers, falcon keepers tend noble birds with great care. Though admired from afar, the work is demanding. The birds are sharp-clawed and temperamental. Bites draw blood. The keeper wakes early, feeds carefully, trains endlessly. If a bird is injured or lost, the keeper pays the price. Prestige belongs to the lord. Risk belongs to the keeper. Along the roads, a toll collector sits beside a wooden gate. Travelers glare as they pass. Coins are thrown with resentment. Accusations are common. Threats come easily. The collector is blamed for the tax, though he did not create it. He counts carefully, knowing missing coin brings punishment. The road stretches long and lonely beside him. As these lives pass gently through the story, they do not demand attention. They simply exist, briefly, then drift on. The sounds soften again. Footsteps fade. Tools are set down. All this work, all this effort, carried quietly by people history rarely names. Now the images slow further. The kiln cools. The rope lies finished. The armor rests untouched. And the story eases back into stillness. Your breathing remains slow and calm. Your body rests fully, supported and warm. Thoughts come and go without weight. There is nothing more to follow, only the gentle continuation of quiet. The medieval world has shared enough. It recedes peacefully once more, and sleep deepens, steady and unbroken, carrying you onward in calm darkness. Beyond the town, where marshland stretches under pale moonlight, a reed cutter moves slowly through shallow water. His knife slices tall reeds used for roofing and mats. Each step pulls at his boots, the cold water numbing his legs. Insects hum softly around him. He works carefully, because a slip could mean injury far from help. When his bundle is full, he rests for a moment, listening to frogs and distant wind, letting the quiet soothe his tired body. In a small stone quarry, a stone splitter works by touch more than sight. He taps wedges into cracks, listening for the subtle sound that tells him the stone will break cleanly. Dust coats his skin and hair, chips strike his hands. The stone is heavy, stubborn, unforgiving. Churches, bridges, and walls will rise from his labor, but his name will never be carved into them. In a crowded dye house, a woad stirrer turns thick blue liquid with a long paddle. The smell is sharp and unpleasant, clinging to skin and clothes. Steam rises, filling the room. The stirring must be constant to keep the color even. His arms move slowly now, rhythmically, almost like a lullaby of motion, until even effort feels distant. Near a monastery, a candle maker pours warm tallow into molds. The fat smells strong, almost sweet and sour at once. Smoke curls upward. His hands work steadily, knowing candles are precious, essential for prayer, work, and safety after dark. When the last mold is filled, he sits quietly, watching the candles cool, feeling the warmth fade from his palms. In the forests, a resin collector scrapes sap from wounded trees. The sticky resin clings stubbornly, pulling at fingers. His hands are always tacky, smelling of pine and smoke. Resin will seal ships, waterproof roofs, and fuel fires. He gathers it patiently, respecting the slow pace of the trees themselves. In town again, a bellows boy rests beside a forge. All day he pumped air into the fire, keeping it hot enough for shaping iron. His arms are thin but sore, muscles trembling from repetition. Sparks danced near his face. Now the forge is dark, the bellows are still. He curls up nearby, sleep finding him easily. In a narrow loft above a shop, a medieval furrier sorts pelts. The work is cold and uncomfortable, fleas jump. The smell of animal clings to everything. He checks each hide carefully for damage, fingers stiff from chill. When finished, he covers the pelts and closes his eyes, letting the quiet claim the space. Slowly, gently, these final images loosen and blur. The quarry grows silent. The marsh stills. The dye house darkens. The medieval world, heavy with labor, finally releases its last breath. Nothing moves now except time itself, flowing smoothly and softly forward. Your body remains at rest. Your breathing is deep and steady. Thoughts drift like faint shadows, barely forming before fading away. There is no ending to reach, no task left undone. Only calm, only quiet. Only sleep, deep and peaceful, holding everything gently as the story continues to fade into darkness. The night lingers as the medieval world continues quietly, moving slowly like mist over stone and soil. Not all labor is gone yet. Some of the hardest, darkest jobs still unfold in silence, unseen by those who live above. Along the banks of a winding river, a fisherman hauls nets thick with squirming fish. The smell of wet earth and river water is heavy in the air. His hands are raw from rope and scales. Sometimes the nets are empty. Sometimes they drag with unexpected weight, nearly tipping him into the cold water. He steadies himself again and again, muscles tense, eyes fixed on the slow rhythm of the river. When the night ends, he folds the nets, stiff and damp, and lets his body lean against a rough stone for a few moments of quiet. Near the town square, a street lamplighter moves from post to post. The oil is thick and pungent. He climbs ladders again and again, hands sticky, arms aching, lighting each lamp so that darkness will retreat only slightly for the people below. The flickering flames dance in his eyes. A sudden wind might snuff them, forcing him to climb and relight, endlessly repeating the task. The glow spreads slowly across cobblestones, painting long shadows as he moves onward. In a low, damp cellar beneath a wealthy merchant's home, a wine cellar worker tends barrels of fermenting wine. The air is dense with yeast and mildew. Each barrel is heavy, full, and sometimes leaking. The worker rolls, lifts, and tilts with care, knowing one slip could ruin an entire season's yield. His hands are sticky, stained with deep purple. He breathes slowly, steadying himself in the quiet, the dark wood around him as still as stone. Out on the open moorlands, a peat cutter returns from the bog, his shoulders bent from long hours of slicing and stacking dark, sodden earth. The cold has seeped deep into his bones. He lays down the tools and stretches slowly, letting the chill fade from his hands. Each piece of peat will burn through winter, keeping others warm while his own nights remain chill and brief. In the castle kitchens, scullions kneel once more, scrubbing greasy pots in thick pans long after the chefs have eaten. The soap is harsh, the water cold, the scrubbing never-ending. Their hands ache, their backs groan. They work silently, for no applause until every dish is clean and ready for tomorrow. When the final pot is rinsed, they sit quietly by the hearth, letting the warmth seep into tired muscles. Near the docks, a rope spinner sits low to the ground, twisting fibers into thick cordage. The smell of wet hemp and salt water clings to his clothes. His fingers are rough, calloused, but precise. A single misstep might ruin a whole coil. Ships depend on him, though they carry away all credit. He stops occasionally, leans back and listens to the waves lapping at wooden posts, feeling the rhythm in his own exhausted body. High in a bell tower, a bell ringer climbs slowly with rope in hand. Hours of tugging and steady motion are needed to keep the bells sounding true. Sweat drips down his face, muscles strain. The sound of bells echoes far below, but his face is hidden in shadow. When the final bell tolls, he rests against the cool stone, listening as the echoes die softly in the air. Back in town, a mudlark works along the riverbanks at low tide, digging through muck to find lost coins, tools, or scraps of value. The ground clings to boots and hands. Rats skitter nearby. Water seeps cold and deep. The work is slow, grimy, and often fruitless, yet someone must do it to survive. By nightfall, he stands, tired, the muck scraped from his skin, and moves quietly back to shelter, alone in the dark. On narrow city streets, a lamp cleaner forges through soot-stained corridors and over wooden bridges. His task is to scrub grime from lanterns and windows, ensuring light will reach where it is needed. Every sweep of cloth smudges again. Every gust of wind undoes hours of careful work. The city is grateful only in necessity. His hands are always blackened, his arms weary, his face streaked with dust. Finally, in the shadowed corners of marketplaces, a rat catcher moves silently. Small creatures scuttle in the dark, hiding among crates and spilled grain. He bends, stretches, sets traps, and waits patiently. A single bite might bring sickness. His clothing smells of earth and vermin. He works unseen, unthanked, yet the marketplace functions because he has done his job. Slowly, softly, all these workers begin to fade into stillness. The river flows quietly. The streets lie empty. The docks are calm. And with their fading, the medieval world itself seems to lean back and exhale. Your body grows heavier. Your thoughts drift in soft, unshaped patterns. Your breath is deep and even. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing pulls you forward. Only calm remains. Only rest. Only the gentle pull of sleep, steady and unbroken, carrying the weight of history away into the quiet night. As night deepens once more, the medieval world moves quietly, unseen by most, carrying the weight of work that never truly ends. Even as towns sleep, some laborers toil or rest briefly before beginning again. In a dark, low cellar beneath a tavern, a cooper's apprentice bends over barrels. He tightens hoops with hammer and mallet, adjusts staves until they fit just right. The smell of wet wood and sour beer fills the air. Blisters cover his hands, muscles ache, yet each barrel must be perfect. Beer, wine, and ale depend on his precision. When the final hoop is set, he leans back against rough stone, breathing slowly, feeling the fatigue settle deep into his bones. By the riverside, a net mender kneels, repairing torn fishing nets. Each knot is slow, careful, precise. The net is heavy with salt, clinging to his clothes and skin. His eyes strain in the dim moonlight. Hours pass unnoticed. The river murmurs beside him, soft and constant, while he works quietly to keep the fishermen supplied, though no one will ever notice the care in his hands. In the stables, a night groom sweeps straw from stalls, feeds horses, and checks that each animal is warm and dry. The smell of sweat and hay is thick. Cold air bites exposed skin. His body moves in repetition, bending, lifting, adjusting, until the animals are settled. Only then can he rest, leaning against a post, listening to the steady breathing of the horses around him. High in a castle turret, a watchman adjusts his post, scanning the dark landscape. His hands are stiff from cold. His cloak smells faintly of smoke. The stones beneath him are damp. All night he has stood alert, listening for danger, fires, thieves, or the faintest sound of unrest. No one notices him unless something goes wrong, yet the town relies entirely on his vigilance. Slowly, he shifts his weight, letting tired muscles ease, watching the horizon lighten as dawn slowly approaches. In the marketplace, a tanner works in the stench of hides and vats. Leather is soaked, stretched, and scraped over and over. Hands become raw, fingers bleed. Fumes rise from chemicals that sting lungs and eyes. Every hide must be perfect. The smell clings to his skin long after the work is done. At the end of the day, he wipes his hands on rough cloth and moves quietly to rest, letting the odor and exhaustion fade slowly. Along cobbled streets, a street cleaner sweeps away mud, manure, and broken pottery. Each day, the work begins anew. His back aches from bending, arms tire, feet ache. Dust and grime cling to his clothes. Few people pause to thank him. When the street is finally clean, he leans on his broom, breathing slowly, watching the shadows lengthen in the lamplight. Near a city gate, a night porter rests beside his post. He carries lanterns, checks locks, and ensures that travelers are safe. The cold wind bites at his hands. Every creak of a hinge or footsteps nearby sets him alert. He moves quietly, carefully, performing his duties without recognition, until dawn arrives and the city stirs again. In a small workshop, a quillmaker sharpens nibs and fashions pens. The work is fine and delicate, requiring concentration and patience. Dust gathers, hands ache, eyes strain. The pens will be used for letters, ledgers, and records, yet his work is invisible to most. Slowly, he sets the finished quills aside, leans back, and allows the quiet to wash over him. On a hill outside town, a charcoal burner tends slow fires. The smoke curls thick and white. His hands and face are blackened with soot. Heat presses down on him as he moves heavy wood into place. Hours pass as he monitors the fire, careful to maintain the correct burn. When the night winds die and the glow softens, he leans on a shovel and breathes deeply, letting exhaustion fill him completely. In a monastery garden, an herbalist gathers plants under moonlight. Each leaf and root is selected carefully, dried and stored. The air smells faintly of herbs and soil. Fingers ache from plucking tiny stems. Knees are stiff from crouching. His work will heal, but rarely is thanked. Slowly he straightens and moves inside, leaving the quiet garden to shadow and silence. And in a dark corner of the city, a chimney sweep climbs soot-lined flues, scraping blackened walls. Each climb is tight, dark, and exhausting. Smoke and ash fill lungs. Cuts and bruises mark skin. He moves carefully, knowing a single slip could be fatal. When the sweep finally emerges, he brushes himself off, wiping soot from eyes and hands, breathing the cold night air deeply. Slowly, all these laborers fade into the background. The river flows calmly. The streets fall silent. The forge and the mill both rest. And in this quiet, your body drifts deeper. Your breath is even. Your limbs feel heavy and warm. Thoughts pass gently, without interruption. Nothing demands you. Nothing pulls at you. Only the soft, endless calm remains, carrying you deeper into sleep, safe, peaceful, and completely still. The night stretches on, soft and still, carrying with it the echo of labor long past and present, the gentle rhythm of lives spent in work that few will ever notice. Even in the quiet hours, the medieval world hums softly with the hidden motion of those who cannot rest fully. In a low-shadowed bakery, a kneader works slowly over heavy dough. His hands are sticky, arms aching from repetition. The heat of the oven presses against him. Flour dust rises around his head and settles on his shoulders. Each loaf must be shaped carefully, for the bread will feed families, soldiers, and travelers. His labor is constant, precise yet unseen. When the final batch is placed in the oven, he leans back against a wooden table, inhaling the warmth and the comforting scent of bread, letting the tension in his arms ease slowly. Outside the city walls, a shepherd walks quietly through fields dotted with sheep. The animals move with gentle clatter over stone and grass. His staff is heavy in his hand, his cloak is damp from dew. Hours pass with little movement other than the soft shuffle of hooves and the distant sound of wind. He checks each sheep carefully, calls gently when one strays, and waits patiently. By nightfall, he finds a sheltered spot, sits against a tree, and breathes in the cool, still air, letting the endless monotony of his work lull him toward rest. In the forest, a woodcutter sharpens his axe. The blade gleams faintly in the moonlight. His hands are calloused, his back stiff. Each strike against the tree must be careful, precise, measured, or the risk of injury rises. He moves rhythmically, chopping, lifting, stacking. The forest listens in silence, the wind moving softly through the branches. At the end of the night, he wipes sweat and sap from his hands, stretches slowly, and lets the forest absorb his exhaustion. In a riverside tannery, a tanner scrapes hides against the board, removing flesh and fat. The smell is sharp, acrid, clinging to skin and hair. Hands are raw, eyes watery from steam and chemical fumes. Each hide must be prepared for the leather trade, for belts, shoes, and armor. He pauses only to breathe deeply and glance at the river, letting the soft flow of water soothe him as he rests for a moment, before the work continues once more. In a stone quarry, a miner lifts heavy rocks into carts, moving along narrow ledges where one misstep could be fatal. Dust fills the air, scratching throat and lungs. Muscles scream from repeated strain, but the work is endless. When night falls, he sits on a ledge, listening to the soft echo of distant picks striking stone, letting the ache in his back settle slowly into quiet. In the city streets, a street sweeper moves with a long broom. Mud, broken pottery, animal waste all are brushed away, slowly, meticulously. His body bends again and again, fingers raw from the handle. The wind chills his back. Passers-by ignore him, yet the streets are safer and cleaner because of his labor. When the sweep is finished, he leans on the broom, listening to the faint echo of footsteps on cobblestones, feeling the stillness settle around him. In the docks, a rope maker twists fibers with careful precision. Hemp, flax, and wool are wound and stretched into long, sturdy ropes. Each twist requires focus, each coil careful. Salt and water cling to his skin. His back aches from leaning over the work. Hours pass unnoticed, marked only by the gentle lapping of the river. When the last coil is finished, he leans back, letting the weight of the fibers settle, breathing slowly, feeling the muscles release. Inside a castle kitchen, a scullion scrubs pots and pans by a flickering hearth. The water is cold, soap harsh. His hands blister, his arms burn from heat. He moves slowly, methodically, washing, scraping, rinsing, repeating over and over. No one praises his work. No one notices the clean pots lying neatly for the next day. When the task is complete, he leans back near the hearth, letting warmth seep into tired limbs, closing his eyes for a moment. In a narrow alley, a rat catcher moves silently, setting traps among discarded crates and spilled grain. Rats scurry and hide. He waits patiently, motionless, listening to the faintest movement. Bites are common, smell clings to his clothes. The market is safer because of him, yet he remains unseen. At the end of the night, he moves quietly toward shelter, breathing deeply, letting the ache of constant vigilance fade. High above the town, a bell ringer pauses, ropes slackening in his hands. The echoes of each toll drift down softly, carrying far across empty streets. Muscles are heavy, arms sore. He leans against the cool stone tower, listening to the last reverberations fade into silence, letting the calmness of night seep into every tense muscle. Even the most hidden workers, the ones whose labor is most unpleasant, begin to fade now into the quiet of history. The streets lie empty. The river flows gently. The forest stands still. The castle walls are calm, and your body drifts with them. Breath is slow and steady. Limbs are heavy, warm, and relaxed. Thoughts are soft shadows floating without weight. Nothing demands you. Nothing presses. Only calm remains. Only stillness. Only sleep, deep and gentle, carrying you far from labor, far from worry, into complete, peaceful rest. The night is deep now, quiet and unbroken. The medieval world drifts in shadow, carrying with it the echoes of labor long past. The unseen toil of lives spent in work that demanded strength, patience, and endurance. Along the edge of the town, a chimney sweep finishes the last flue. Black soot coats his skin, clinging stubbornly to hands, face, and hair. His body aches from crawling through narrow, dark shafts, lungs heavy with dust. Each sweep is precise. Careful, one slip could be fatal. He climbs finally into the open air, breathing deeply, letting the cool night wind wash away some of the weight of the day. Slowly, he leans against the wall, eyes closing for the briefest rest before dawn. In the marketplace, a night porter locks the last gates. Keys jingle quietly in his hands. The wind bites at his cloak. He checks each latch carefully, moves silently along shadowed streets, watching for trouble that never comes. His work is steady, necessary, and thankless. At last, he pauses on a quiet corner, listening to the distant river and the soft murmur of the sleeping town, letting the tension in his shoulders release. Near the riverbanks, a peat cutter gathers the last sod for drying. Mud clings to boots and clothes, the cold seeps into bones and joints. Each piece of peat is stacked slowly, methodically. The fire it will feed belongs to others, but the labor rests on him. Finally, he sits on the soft earth, leaning back against a stone, the weight of the day easing, and breathes deeply, letting the rhythm of the night soothe him. In a dark cellar, a wine cellar worker rolls the last barrel into place. Purple-stained hands are raw and tired. The smell of fermenting grapes is strong. He listens to the quiet drip of condensation from the stone walls, lets his body sink against the cool floor for a moment, and closes his eyes, allowing the calm to fill him as the work finally ends. High above in a bell tower, the bell ringer lowers the final rope. Muscles ache, arms tremble. The echoes of the bells fade, leaving soft silence. He leans against the stone wall, listening to the wind brushing over the town below. Slowly, very slowly, his breathing steadies, and the long night's tension unravels into quiet stillness. Outside the walls, a shepherd settles among the soft grass. The flock rests around him, soundless and calm. He breathes deeply, letting the ache of long hours fade. The wind moves gently, carrying the faint smell of hay and earth. His eyes close, his body resting as fully as the flock he guards. In distant forests, a woodcutter leans on his axe, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves. Muscles still throb, yet the forest is calm, the work finished. He lets the weight of the axe settle against the earth, closes his eyes, and allows the quiet night to hold him, as it has held the trees for centuries. And across the medieval world, every worker, every laborer, every hidden figure of toil begins to disappear softly into history. Their hardships remain only as whispers in the wind, the creak of a mill wheel long stopped, the faint glow of a hearth now cold. The streets lie empty, the rivers flow quietly. The forests breathe softly, the towers stand silent. And in your mind, in your body, the same peace settles, breathing slows further. Limbs feel heavy and completely relaxed. Thoughts drift like clouds, soft and formless. Nothing demands you, nothing presses. Nothing moves but the gentle passage of time, carrying you deeper and deeper. The worst jobs in medieval history, harsh and relentless, fade completely now. All that remains is calm. All that remains is stillness. All that remains is sleep deep, safe, and untroubled. The night holds you, the quiet carries you, and you drift, fully, completely, into rest.